You're listening to RTLSA.
And joining me now live from the Mother City, Mr. Dave Romero in the house. How goes it, good sir?
Good morning. Good morning. It goes well. Weather's
Good.
a bit iffy outside, so I decided to rather do it inside. Have you guys got a heat wave?
No, but Johannesburg does apparently. So I believe.
38, 39 or something they're
Yeah,
having,
it's
huh?
chaos. Look, we've been a lot warmer, I won't lie. Not today. Today it's wet and rainy and cool again, but last couple of days have been rather humid and felt like summer weather again to a large degree. But Johannesburg, Gauteng on the other hand, they've got a heat wave going on. They are really battling with 35, 38 degrees.
Yeah, well, it's, I call my mother every second day, and so I just heard her complaining about the heat change. Come to Cape Town, everything's great down here.
Except for iffy weather and wind every now and then.
But you know what? We can live with that because it's such a beautiful spot. So it's okay.
Absolutely. Dave,
It's okay.
some good
Yeah.
news came through yesterday with the fuel price decreasing at midnight tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
What's
these,
dropping about rand,
about
which is quite
yeah,
good.
but diesel's going up.
Okay. I don't know. I don't understand that.
Me
I'm
neither.
not quite sure why. Uh, my only response on that would be that there's a shortage of diesel, and that's why it's gone up. Remember, Eskom actually said that one of the ships bringing diesel in got stranded outside Durban because of the weather.
Yeah.
Now, so our national gross domestic product is subject to a vessel not being able to dock in
Uh,
Durban.
I know. It was actually I was dumbfounded by that for starters because
It's not Durban, it's Mossel Bay. Sorry,
yeah,
Mossel Bay.
it's
Mossel Bay,
down Mossel
sorry.
Bay. But since when do we import so much diesel that we have a shortage, or we can't keep the lights on because of it?
Yeah, but remember that three refineries were closed down. So remember Shell, I think the one in Durban that's owned by Shell and Total shut it down because it wasn't profitable. And the one year owned by Glencore here in Tableview was also not operating. So three, it's it, it's actually quite crazy. The only one that's operating is the one owned by Sasol,
Mm.
and doesn't. This is why we have to import now. In fact, in Cape Town, we had a problem with jet fuel because there was another ship that's docked and apparently has to be cleared before they could deliver the jet fuel, and all that was used to be produced locally.
Mm.
And
Yeah, exactly.
I suspect. I'm going to say something quite controversial. I suspect that Shell shut it down with the uproar of the franking operations in the Karoo. Remember that
Mm.
we all turned around and said, "If you shall." So,
Yeah.
I'm sticking my neck out, but I think Shell would turn around and say, "Well, if you South Africa," and shut down the refinery.
Yeah, I don't know.
Obviously, it's not that simplistic because it's more detailed than that, but I think Shell was quite pissed off about the fracking in the Karoo.
But it's funny. A few years ago, everybody was saying get a diesel car, get a diesel vehicle because diesel you go further on the tank, and diesel's cheaper. Do you think people are going to change their opinion about that now?
I don't know. I think people also talk about going electric vehicles,
Mm.
which in South African context is completely bizarre to have an electric vehicle. Because if your stance is that you want to get an electric vehicle to assist with the carbon emissions, that in itself is bizarre because most of our electricity is produced by when it is produced, it's produced by coal. So you're not reducing the emissions by going
No.
electric vehicle. And I don't know if it's actually cheaper. I'm not. I'm not quite sure why diesel would go up and petrol go down. It can only be due to supply and demand. I'm sure there's other reasons, but I
No,
haven't
yeah,
looked into it.
no
But it's very
reasons.
interesting that the one went up.
No reasons were given. So we're all in the dark, literally in the dark about that.
Yeah, but
Dave?
I mean, going back to the to what I said about our local, South African economy being dependent on a ship docking in Mossel Bay. Uh,
No,
I don't know.
it's bizarre. Dave, I hope you know more about this than I do, because I was a little bit shocked this morning when I read in the news about North Korea firing a missile over Japan. And I didn't realize that there was that much drama between North Korea and Japan. I didn't think it was that serious.
Well, North Korea fired a ballistic missile,
Yes.
okay, over Japan. And in fact, that ballistic missile, if it was redirected, could have landed in Guam, which is
Yeah.
American territory. Okay, so it's not surprising. I think when the North Korean leader, when he's not in the news or when he gets ignored by America, he flexes his muscles and reminds the world that, hey, I'm still here. I need to be dealt with. But it's actually quite hectic flying over the whole of Japan, and it could have hit Guam. It
Yeah.
traveled 4,500 kilometers.
What
Now,
up?
it's not in terms of UN resolutions; they're not allowed to do that. But I mean, uh, it's not going to stop North Korea, because when the United Nations turns around and says, "Listen, guys, you're not allowed to do that." When people do, what are the repercussions? I mean, North Korea is already sanctioned to the hilt. Um, China still deals with them, trades with them. When Trump was around, he paid them attention, which inflated the egos, etc., gave them relevance. With the new regime, there's no relevance at all. So he's firing to get attention. I mean, it's not like North Korea will go to war with Japan. I mean, that's not going to happen.
Well, from what I read this morning, a lot of it has to do with the fact that South Korea, the USA, and Japan have strengthened military connections, and we're running exercises in and around Japan, and North Korea took exception to that, saying that the three of them are teaming up to start a war with North Korea, and that is why they
Well,
fired the missile.
well, first of all, America being there and doing naval exercises with South Korea and Japan in itself is a provocation. That in itself, I mean, what is America doing there? What it's very far from their own homeland. Why is America doing military drills with Japan and South Korea? To what end? Okay, so one has to ask this question. It just feels at times that America is the classical narcissist country. They cause the shit, and then when things happen around because of what they cause, they play the victim.
Huh.
America shouldn't be following in with the military operations in South Korea and Japan. Why? Why should they be doing that? So it is a provocation. It is an extreme provocation to North Korea. Um, so I'm not surprised. And it's always a situation where they flex their muscles, and then they expect the pariah states like North Korea just to keep still. I've got my own views. I've got very strong views about it. Um, that North America seems to feel that they are custodians of world peace, when actually they're the biggest causes of global problems, in fact.
Do you then think that North Korea's reaction is justified?
No, I don't think it justifies any reaction to the extent, but knowing full well what kind of a leader North Korea has, and he's got a humongous ego, it's not unexpected that he would react. It's not an unexpected situation that he would react. And quite frankly, even non-aggressive countries would also just stand up and say, hey, hang on, what's going on here?
I must agree with you on this point with the US being involved, because now North Korea and Japan are tense with the US presence there, and China and Taiwan, there's a US presence there, and yet the real shit that's going on in Russia and Ukraine, there's no US presence there. It's like,
Exactly.
it's like bizarre.
Well, they've given, to their credit, America's given a lot of armaments to Ukraine, which has assisted. Yeah, but they're not going to put troops on the ground.
Mm-mm.
They're not going to put troops on the ground. I mean, they don't want a full-on battle with Russia, and who would want that?
No.
And I see Zelensky is trying to fast-track NATO membership for Ukraine. It's not going to happen.
No.
It won't happen now under the situation, and in particular with Russia's annexation of 23% of Ukraine, and now calling that part of Russia. Americans are not going to be involved there.
No.
Americans are shit stirrers, but when it comes to they back off, which surprised me when the president of America turned around and said if China invaded Taiwan, that they would put troops in Taiwan, American troops. Now, I wonder if that it was something that he was not supposed to say, because lately, I mean, I don't know if you watch some of his clips. It's comical. The leader of the free world is, I don't know, it looks a bit dodge. So I don't know, when he said it twice on that 60-minute clip, or that 60-minute interview, I'm not quite sure if that is American policy, that if China invaded, if there's a full-on invasion of Taiwan, whether America would actually put troops down there. I doubt that very much.
Who knows with Biden? He's like a bit of a loose cannon with his mouth sometimes. I want to shift attention a little bit to South America quickly, with the Brazilian election. And Bolsonaro and Lula went up against each other, and there was no clear winner, and therefore there's going to be a runoff election. And I was saying in my show yesterday that it is quite important and relevant to South Africans what's happening in Brazil, because they're one of our biggest trade partners as well. What are your thoughts on what's happening there in the political landscape at the moment?
Well, they're part of BRICS, so they're the B of BRICS. So it is a strategic part of ours. Their political landscape's always been a bit of a mess. So they had the current president's right wing, so it's very pro-business, and he carried on with the destruction of the Amazon forests for the sake of prosperity of the country, and now there's a left-wing mutterings. But I think the more conservative president will come into play. I think, and that you can see across global politics that there's a bit of a shift off centre, off right. Look at Italy's new prime minister, and look at Nordic countries also are swinging a bit to the right after a few decades of left-wing parties coming to the fore, which is also going to lead to our discussion about wokeness. But I think I think that I don't know much about Brazilian politics, but there's been always a bit of a mishmash. In fact, one of the presidents landed up in jail. He was
Well,
let he was let loose, and now I think he's standing as well.
well, this is
Lula, I think his
exactly
name's
it.
Lula,
Yeah, Lula was the former president of Brazil. He served two
which landed him
terms.
in jail.
Yeah, he served two terms until 2010, I think, and then he landed up in jail for fraud and corruption and things like that. And now he's back contesting the election. And the way it's shaping up at the moment, Brazil apparently the people don't like either of them, but they have to choose between the lesser of the two evils, so to say.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I'm not very familiar with the politics. I just know that it's a bit of a mishmash. And
Well,
Brazil is actually a very interesting country. It's a very interesting country.
what some of the
So
people
let's
were
see what
saying,
happens. Let's just
well,
see
some
the
of the
more Lula is more left. He's to
yes,
the left,
what some of the people were saying
and the
yesterday,
incumbent is more to the right. Yeah.
what some of the people were saying yesterday, the public and I actually played on the show. They were saying that they've got to choose between a thief and a lunatic. They don't know which one to choose.
I'll rather take the lunatic, I think.
I don't know. You know, Bolsonaro,
Yeah.
as much as what he's a lunatic, he took it one step too far with COVID, with over 600,000 people dying, and he was saying
Yeah.
it's not a pandemic. So I don't know.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, I denied that it existed. He called it
Yeah.
a big, strong flu. Uh, Politics is
I'll
a
tell you what,
different
there's a lot of
story.
there's a lot of people in the world that would agree with him, but I think more people wouldn't agree with him. Dave,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you wanted to talk about wokeness today, and I think before we talk about wokeness, we need to understand the definition of wokeness, which is a state of being aware, for starters, but it's particularly aware of racial problems and social problems.
Yeah, it's very interesting because if you look at how it's escalated over the last 3 years, I think it's reached a stage where it's totally out of control. Um, and I'm talking about the radical left now, radical left, the left that turns around and uh, believes in stopping people from expressing their point of view, and in particular people that if you don't agree with their point of view will cancel and chastise you on social media and really uh, um, try to cause mayhem for the individuals that do not agree with a certain line of thinking. And there's more and more of this conversation that's going on in media and in social media, in normal mainstream media and social media. And I wanted to speak about it today. It would be interesting to find out what the opinion of the listeners is. But if you put something controversial on social media, which I have done in the past, and it's not agreed by mainstream or by the extreme left, I'm talking about extreme left now, okay? You get lambasted and insulted and really ridiculed for a different stance or opinion which is not accepted by the radical left. So now pundits are coming out and are saying, what has happened to free speech? What's happened to people just having a discussion in terms of certain subjects which are pertinent in this day and age, but people have different point of views. Is it not possible anymore to have a discussion that differs from the radical left? And if you disagree, does that entitle the radical left to shut you up completely? So this is what's going on. I mean, if you look at media, it's getting worse and worse. Um, I mean, I watched Jeffrey Peterson, which is quite controversial, I suppose. But he makes a very good point. Not that I agree with all his ideas, but that's the purpose of free speech, that we can sit and talk and discuss differences of opinion. And I think that the woke aspect has just been taken and it's just become extreme. That people think that now they're enlightened, they can express their opinion and shut everybody else.
Well, my thoughts on that is I'm all for you having an opinion and voicing your opinion and freedom of speech. I'm a big exponent of that. But I also believe that you have a responsibility to be sensitive on certain topics and certain subjects. And I think that, you know, I agree with you, people take it too far when people do have an opinion. But sometimes people's opinions should rather be kept to themselves rather than posted all over social media. And when I say this, I'm not talking because I know you. Your post might have been a bit controversial, but it was based on fact and based on and it wouldn't have been attacking anybody specific and whatever. But people often do go onto social media and attack certain sectors of the community based on religion, race, and things like that. And I think there should be a sort of sensitivity on certain subjects when you're posting on social media.
Yeah, well, of course, in any aspect of life, one has to be sensitive, obviously. But now there's this raging debate in America about abortion, for instance. Now you've got the conservative people that talk about abortion being, they're against abortion because of their religious beliefs. Um, and in fact, the Supreme Court overruled a previous judgment that disallowed abortions in America. Now, and then you have on the left saying that women, it's their body and they should decide for themselves what what's right and wrong. Okay, so but the radical left, how they're going about it, they're just going berserk. They're demonstrating, they causing complete mayhem instead of just sitting and having a proper discussion about this. And the radical right is the same thing. The radical right turning around and saying, you guys are murderers. And instead of sitting and having a dialogue about it and respecting each other's beliefs, I think in the Jewish faith as well, it's also it's not in the Jewish faith, it's not allowed to have an abortion, and I think some states in America have taken it to the extreme, where you could have an abortion practically right till the end. Um, and I would have difficult with that if you're almost on term and you abort. It's a difficult one. But the point is that if you disagree, do not ridicule the other person that doesn't share your views. So then have a proper discussion, and in particular, don't get violent about it. Don't use violence to put your point across. Have a discussion, and I think this is what's going on. People just are completely intolerant. They don't tolerate other people's opinions, and same with racial issues. We I see it often now that if you're a white male like us, the extreme left feel that it's proper to chastise us for the injustices of the past, where men, well, still now there's a massive disparity, and just because now we are white and male, we are automatically classified as this evil, uh, that evil because of what's happened in the past, about with Europe, with colonization, and women not having rights, etc. And now the white male of today is completely pushed aside and insulted. I mean, I've seen some video clips of complete insult and just generalizing that we are all evil because of what our ancestors done in the past. That is such a bizarre argument. It's not. I don't call that enlightenment. I just call that fucking stupid. You know what? So I'm Spanish by descent, and my forefathers, in the name of Catholicism, went to South America and colonized South America and did atrocities there. Okay, 250 years ago. Do I have to atone for that? As a descendant of those people that did that, do I have to atone? Do I have to apologize for what my forefathers did in South America? And if so, do I have to pay reparations to people in Argentina and Brazil? I mean, it's just so bizarre. This kind of discussion.
You mentioned that, and if that was the case, then every single person of English descent should be atoning because England colonized the world at one point. So
yeah, but I mean, okay, but you talk about England, right? So let's just go back in history. Okay, the America was constituted by foreigners, right? But there were millions of Native Americans there, Indians.
Yeah.
Okay. So all these nationalities went across in America, land of opportunity, etc., and they literally massacred millions of people.
Exactly.
In fact, they brought smallpox there, the disease, and it eradicated. And the military at the time went into villages, Indian villages, and slaughtered children and women while the warriors were attacking someone else. Totally slaughtered, eradicated, completely obliterated. Where's the reparations there?
No.
So what gives the Americans the mouth to talk about the slave trade, which was horrendous? It took they're the biggest pariahs, and so they should just shut up and not talk about reparations to America. What the hell?
Well, here's the thing: there will never be reparations ever, and I think people need to realize in South Africa as well. We need to stop trying to fix the past and rather fix the present with an eye on the future.
Having said that, sorry not to interrupt you. I think that we cannot ignore the injustice of the past.
No,
I don't think it's also right to put our head in the sand and say, listen, let's just move on. I think it has to be addressed properly, not the way it's been done now.
Learn from the past.
Learn
from the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Learn from the past that you don't make the same mistakes going forward. But you can't fix the past. That's what I'm trying to say. You got to learn from it. You got to say, okay, cool. We will not do that again. We're going to fix the present and say, okay, this is how we're going to go forward. And I think people are trying to fix the past.
But I think that the disparity that we have in our country, where there is a disparity, and it was in part because of apartheid. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's address that. It can't be that now you introduce a wealth tax and the people just make they're wealthy. That money goes into the state coffers and then just gets given to the poor, because that doesn't work. Okay. And when people get something for nothing, you're not eradicating wealth, because you're not creating a sustainable solution. Rather utilize the wealth to create like a SME fund or create structures that will enhance entrepreneurship, for instance, that are self-sustainable. But just to take from the rich and give to the poor, that doesn't work. It's never worked.
No.
It's never worked. Okay. In fact, there's a stat internationally that 70% of the people that win lotto, 70% after a few
Lose it all.
years, go
Yeah.
back to where they were. Okay. But so let's just learn. Well, said let's learn from the past. Let's learn from this. Yes, let's fix the disparity by having an inclusive economy, but through structures that are self-sustainable.
Well,
Okay,
talking about
that's what we have to do.
100%. This is a conversation we can have extensive talks about. But talking about learning lessons, have you learned your lesson yet? we are so out of time. We're so out of time. We're so out of time, so we've got to get into it now.
Oh shit! Okay, what? Okay,
It's
ready for this one.
It's a historical question today. Are you ready for
Oh,
it?
okay.
Time to test your knowledge with Power Play Trivia.
Power Play Trivia brought to you by Bev Miller. Dave, the question today is simple one. And I got correct answers from Bev and Lauren and Cheryl and Zelda. So we're in good stead so far.
Okay.
The question is, and you can just give me the year. In which year did the Titanic sink? Okay.
Just give me the year. And people got it right.
Yeah. I'll give you a clue.
Without Googling.
I'll give you a clue because I don't want you to be on a losing streak. So it was somewhere between 1911 and 1913.
Let me think. 1912.
Yes, you got it. Back on the winning streak, Dave. Back on the winning streak. The correct answer was 1912. Dave, we'll catch you next week, Tuesday. Have a brilliant week.
Thanks.
And keep shining. Keep shining, because you do shine.
Thank you.
You're listening to RTLSA.